Okay, last week we talked about stalking a trade in ULTA, and I want to go over that because the higher end of the zone, the support zone, was violated, but the lower end was not. Okay, the lower end that we were looking at and we talked about in the video was this 291.14 area. Well, you ended up holding above that and then triggering an entry, okay, which I will show you next. Now, a trigger is simply price action that tells you that it's worth placing a bet. And for example, it triggered for a day trade on, let's say, a 5-minute chart, like right over here. Okay, this is where you had the moving average crossover to the upside after we tested and held that support. And you also took out a prior swing high in the process. You had a nice little rally from there. Now, it also triggered, though, for a swing trade, which is either on a 15-minute chart, which is the aggressive swing trade trigger, and then the 30-minute chart also. So here, what'd you do? You had the moving average crossover, you took out a prior swing high, so it signaled an entry, and now your initial risk is defined either, underneath that support decision or underneath that last low. Also, here's the 30-minute chart that shows you that this one also had the crossover and also had taken out a prior swing high. Okay, but now what? Because, we had a nice little bounce off of here, but we're experiencing a pullback. Okay, well, we can look at that, but before I show you the pullback decision that I'm looking at, I do want to remind you that the risk is defined right underneath here, which is not a ridiculous amount compared to what the potential reward is, which is going to be the 1272 extension of the swing into the zone, which means the potential upside target is 321. Okay, so with that in mind, let's now look at a 30-minute chart again, and we did have a trigger against the support, but this would be a secondary entry decision. Okay, and it comes from just running the projections of these prior two swings, the retracements of these two swings, an extension of this swing, and basically here's another chance or potential opportunity to get in that doesn't have a ridiculous amount of risk. Okay, the support cluster comes in on a 30-minute chart at 293.74 to 295.22. We're already testing it. If you see a renewed buy trigger against this support, you can take the trade, and then you don't even have to risk to underneath here. You can risk to underneath this zone, so underneath that 293 area, and it still has potential to give you a a healthy rally, and maybe we head towards those targets that I have on the daily chart. And when am I wrong? Well, as far as this decision, I'm dead wrong. If we break underneath this 293.74 area, if you break it by $1, then I would, I'd say I'm wrong.